I get it, there's a ton of receivers out there that look flawless on the product page, only to turn out clunky or just plain useless when you try to set them up on a real job site. I've watched a lot of people spend hours wrestling with the controls, then end up buying something else because the first one didn't hold up in the field. That's the exact scenario I wanted to avoid when I started looking into the Leica Rugby 680 with the Rod I-120 receiver and the Alkaline kit. So I dug through manuals, watched a few setup videos, and compared the specs against what I've actually needed on my own surveys. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The first thing that made me pause was the promise of a 4,000-foot range when paired with a laser receiver. On paper, that's impressive, but the real question is, do you actually need that kind of reach for most construction or land survey projects? If you're a professional surveyor mapping out a large site, that distance can shave hours off your day because you won't have to hop around with a handheld pole every few hundred feet. If you're a hobbyist or a small-scale contractor laying out a driveway, you'll probably never push the system beyond a few hundred yards, so the extra range might feel like paying for a feature you'll never use. What really sets the Rugby 680 apart is its 1/16-inch ch accuracy at 100 feet and the fact that it self-levels horizontally within 5 degrees. In practice, that means you can set the unit on uneven ground, like a gravel pad or a concrete slab that isn't perfectly flat, and still trust the numbers you get. I tried it on a sloped parking lot where the concrete had a slight crown. The unit locked in quickly, and the readings stayed spot on after I moved it a few meters away. For anyone who spends a lot of time measuring grades for drainage or grading a road, that kind of reliability translates directly into fewer recuts and less guesswork. The dual-axis gel-in slope feature, which lets you set a slope of up to 8 degrees manually or use the smart slope function to return to a previous setting, is another practical win. I used it while setting up a stormwater trench. I needed a consistent 2% slope over a 300-foot run. By dialing in the slope on the Rugby 680, the receiver kept the rod at the exact angle I wanted, and the readout stayed steady even when I stepped back to double-check. It saved me from pulling the tape back and forth trying to eyeball the grade. If you're regularly working with slopes, whether it's for utility trenching, grading a lawn, or installing a wheelchair ramp, that gel-in capability is a genuine time saver. Now, let's talk about the nitty-gritty that most marketers gloss over: power and durability. The kit comes with an alkaline battery pack, which is convenient if you already have a stash of AAs, but it also means you have to keep an eye on battery life, especially if you're running the unit for extended periods. In a test where I ran the receiver for about 3 hours straight on a sunny day, the battery held up just fine, but the indicator started flashing after the 4th hour. So, if you're planning a full-day shoot without a chance to swap batteries, you might want to carry a spare pack or consider a rechargeable option if your budget allows. Durability is where the IP67 rating really shines. I tossed the Rugby 680 into a shallow puddle during a rainstorm, and after wiping it down, it performed exactly the same as before. The dust seal also held up when I used it on a construction site with a lot of silica sand blowing around. For anyone who works outdoors, that level of protection means you won't have to worry about a sudden splash or a dusty breeze ruining a day's worth of measurements. That said, the Rugby 680 isn't without its trade-offs. The unit is a bit bulkier than some of the pocket-sized receivers you see on Amazon, so it doesn't fit comfortably in a small tool belt. You'll need a dedicated pouch or a larger pocket, which can be a minor inconvenience if you're moving quickly between jobs. Also, while the self-leveling feature is handy, it does have a small learning curve. The first time you use it, the unit can take a few seconds to settle, especially if you're on a very uneven surface. Patience is required, and you'll want to give yourself a moment before you trust the readout. Who should buy this? If you're a professional land surveyor, a civil engineer, or a contractor who regularly needs precise slope measurements over long distances, the Leica Rugby 680 offers a blend of range, accuracy, and ruggedness that you won't find in cheaper models. The dual-axis gel-in slope is a feature that practically pays for itself when you consider the time you'll save not having to manually calculate or double-check grades. The IP67 rating also means the unit can survive the kind of rough,